I think you do an awesome job at making people like me insecure about why we weren't at your level when we were 12 years old. You're this beloved figure. You're this rational, smart, intelligent voice for Michigan State athletics. You're a talented guy, talented writer. You really know your shit, and I'm happy to have you. I think it's a privilege for our audience to hear you. If they're into this stuff at all, they're in for a treat tonight with you. Oh boy, Justin Thind is here. I have to say that was the best, Ben, you could possibly do with like a non-athlete special intro. I love it. Welcome back to Spiro Avenue, Justin Spiro. Obviously, there's no guest host of this show ever. It's always me. You're always stuck with me one way or another. Before we get started, and I am excited to get started, just want to say real quick, sending love to my good friend Chris Castellani. Going through some shit right now, came out, as always, very publicly, talking about the issues he's facing and sending a lot of love to Chris. I know thousands are echoing that sentiment. So love you, Chris, and you'll get after it. We know you will, like you always do. Let's get on. Michigan State football, Justin. The Justin and Justin show today is going to be interesting. I think there's some areas where you and I are going to agree and we're going to play nice. And there's going to be some points of this conversation probably a little bit later as it pertains to the basketball program where I think this conversation is going to resemble our text messages, which is not a very friendly place. I mean, it's a little bit contentious sometimes in our text messages. I get very upset, not quite like Tony Paul level. Tony and I will have hours-long arguments. But we'll get to that. Let's get to where I think we may have some meaning of the minds here. I want to start Michigan State football right now, where we stand. There's a lot of people with a lot of opinions on this topic, and it has broached the regional wall. Mm-hmm. We are into the national basket now where everyone's got an opinion on Michigan State. Even when things were good last year, 11-win season, people had a lot of opinions about Mel Tucker's contract. It was all a Kenneth Walker mirage. Right. It seemed pretty negative even last year.
Right.
This year, it's a lot worse. Let's start here. Dan Wetzel, who has turned down 700 invitations to appear on this show, even though he lives locally. Yahoo Sports has written a few scathing articles about this program, specifically Kenneth Walker. He's mentioned Kenneth Walker a lot, specifically Mel Tucker and his lack of control, how this thing is off the rails. I want you to respond to this. Let's throw up that Dan Wetzel graphic to start. So this is a recent article about 10 days ago now. Quote, "The task ahead for Mel Tucker is clear. Right this ship and quickly. Hopes were high. Recruiting looked strong. Mel Tucker cast a big presence and personality. Then it all came unglued. Michigan State has been a mess this season. Mel Tucker should be better than this, and staff changes are likely. That big contract is a punchline, something for rival recruiters to poke fun at. Mel Tucker better come right and quickly." Okay. What do you make of this, Justin? This is one of many scathing Mel Tucker pieces we've read from Wetzel, from national people abroad. Do you think that this season, 5-7, as painful as it was a sign of, oh shit, Mel Tucker's in trouble, better write this shit quick or else? Or is this more just kind of we're going to get past this pretty quickly? Like, is this more real or fake to you?
I take issue with two specific parts of that excerpt. One, for Dan to say that the amount of money that Tucker makes is a punchline for rival recruiters, I guarantee you that that's not what rival recruiters are bringing up, because what that punchline tells kids is stability. When Mel Tucker has that much money and it's guaranteed, there's no buying it out. All you're highlighting is that Tucker is there to stay. Kids aren't going to sit there and be like, oh, the coach is making $9.5 million and he's not winning. You're right, I probably shouldn't go there. Kids aren't going to care about money in any scope other than stability. Second of all, as for things becoming unglued, Michigan State had one 4-star decommitment in the entire 5-7 season. And if things becoming unglued means that they still have 9 4-star commits, which is a school record, and could potentially add 3 to 4 more, I don't see how that's becoming unglued. I think that's the best recruiting class I've ever seen Michigan State put together. So those specific points from that excerpt, I couldn't disagree more with. In terms of just the general scheme of things, I think the biggest thing that you'll see people talk about when they talk down on Mel Tucker's urgency or lack of meeting expectations is they bring up the contract. If you remove the contract from the equation and the expectations that come with that, I don't think that his tenure has been underwhelming in that sense. Now, the 11 wins raised the bar probably too high. Myself and many others kind of forgot the process that was necessary to rebuild this program. You're not able to go ahead and accept 5 wins if you've just seen 11. But instead of looking at it as a linear rebuild and looking at it as, okay, most of the roster transferred out when Coach Tucker got here and went down to MAC schools and Group of 5 schools. The fact of the matter is that the 2021 class wasn't very good, and it wasn't going to be very good. You have a coach recruiting for a 24 and 23 program in the previous 4 years over Zoom, coming in February, where other kids had already taken their junior day visits to other universities months before that. And that class wasn't any good. The 2020 class wasn't very good. They patchworked a lot of stuff with the portal the year before with Kenneth Walker and some other guys, but the core of this team just wasn't going to be a team that can win a lot of games. And one season of defying the norm should not have reset expectations that the rebuild is over. So I think really at the end of the day, this is a program that needed time. It's a program that needed patience. And 11 wins and $95 million has people becoming illogical about the task at hand. That's what I think has happened.
And to piggyback your point, and I'll defer to you on the recruiting, what is actually said, what would actually move the needle or not, one direction or the other, I would say intuitively, the $95 million doesn't just speak to stability and the fact that he's going to be there for the long run. It also speaks to just general resources.
Right.
You're not going to a small-time program. The money that's there, whether it's in the program or a phone call away in the form of Matt Ishbia, I think that's sort of an argument as well. So, I mean, big picture, we all hated this year. If you care about Michigan State, this year sucked. There's no way around it. Throw out the tunnel controversy. Right. The on-field thing just sucked. You seem to think that this is not that big of a deal, big picture.
Right.
Do you feel 5% less confident in the rebuild, the nature of it, the path it's on than you did 12 months ago? I mean, are you a little bit shaken at all?
Well, I mean, I expected them to win 7 games instead of 5. So I guess I sure 5% less, but nothing systematic or infrastructural. Like I don't see any cracks in the foundation. I just think it might take a little longer than a lot of us thought, maybe one additional year before they're in the contention for Big Ten East championships. But I think, yeah, it's going to take maybe one more additional year, but there's no cracks in the foundation or long-term wavering for me in terms of where the vision of the program is going. No.
But you are aware that you are deviating from the national line, though, because the national line is very in line with Dan Wetzel.
Right.
Unglued, off the rails, out of control.
Right.
Disaster. Dan Wetzel said this is a total mess.
Right.
This is not a picture of bump in the road that's being painted. This is painted as they are in DEFCON 1 mode. This is a complete crisis. And if they don't get it right immediately, if they start 2-2 next year, they're going to talk about firing Mel Tucker. That's like, that stuff's out there. You think that's a bunch of hogwash, essentially. Is that fair?
I don't think it's possible to have that take if you're watching every single minuscule detail of the way the program is recruiting and the way that the younger classes right now, the 2022 and 2023 classes are looking. When you have a lot of guys like Dylan Tatum, Malik Spencer, Zion Young, those guys on defense, they're going to be starting for years to come. You have a lot of good offensive linemen from the 2022 class that the rankings wouldn't reflect as being that good. You have guys like Braden Miller. You have guys like Ashton Lepo, Christian Phillips. All the core pieces are already there from the 2022 class, and that class wasn't even top 20. This next class right here that's about to sign in 2 weeks, like I said, that's a school record for 4 stars right now before they even add any more. 2024, we are a long ways away from signing that class. You already have 2 top 175 kids, possibly a third one entering the fold in December. You could have 3 4-star commits in the 2024 class before the 2022 calendar ends. Anybody that's following recruiting right now at Michigan State, I don't understand how they can say that anything is ungluing right now. Sure, that the tunnel thing was a bad look, but Tucker did his job kind of taking care of that. More sort of responsible handling of that than we've seen from other coaches in this state. And I think the fact of the matter is that no one wants to talk about it. Everyone talks about excuses, but they were fielding their C team for the second half of that year on defense. They have guys that were coming over there playing that you didn't even think coming into the season would be a part of the 3 deep, let alone the 2 deep. So I think right now the key is to have one fully healthy season next year. No massive injury bugs. Obviously, guys are going to be banged up. You have your core players play most of the season next year. I think you're going to start to see signs. They might not go ahead and win 9, 10 games, maybe not even 8 games, but you're going to see a lot of young kids looking like those kind of defensive centerpieces that we were expecting Mel Tucker to get when he started recruiting here. And for him to land a record-setting 4-star class after a 5-7 season at Michigan State, I don't know if that is something I would have thought was possible a few years ago, and it's about to become possible even in one of the more struggling seasons I can remember.
So, okay, we've addressed the national perception. We've addressed your perception and the stuff you're seeing.
Right.
I have joked that you are like, is it Lucius Fox in the Batman, the Nolan movies? You have everyone's cell phone tapped in the country on the recruiting side. We've addressed the first two. Obviously, guys still committing, it sort of speaks for itself. But what is the anecdotal buzz? You have your finger on the pulse with this stuff. Is the enthusiasm about Mel Tucker at the high school level, the recruiting level, is it down a little bit? Because when you were here last year, it was, he's the celebrity coming off with the Gucci bag, and he's got the the cigars, and he's like a celebrity that you had the clip that we used again and again, and people loved. Has that been dinged at all? We talked about the other two aspects. What's the buzz at the high school recruiting level among kids? What are you hearing, pro, con, or neutral?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is talking to the coaches of these high school kids, the trainers of these high school kids. Those are the guys that really shape the influence of a lot of these recruitments. And for them, they never fully bought into the sort of the Gucci bag and that stuff. They bought into what they hear when they talk to Mel Tucker. So when they talk to him, they see the defensive coordinator that coached in the national championship. They see the guy that coached in the NFL for all these years. That is beyond a cult of personality. That is a substance-based assessment that a lot of these coaches have of Mel Tucker. Obviously, it helped get him on the map, and it built his profile when he was doing the flashy things, and I think they should definitely continue doing that. But I think where a lot of the interest in playing for Mel Tucker stems from, that's not going to go away from just one down season. The resume and sort of the pedigree is just too big for that to fade in a short amount of time. I think what can really help them is if they continue to recruit nationally the way that they are, which I don't see that slowing down, and then kind of showing some life in terms of kind of like they did against Miami. You have a win like that against Miami, and South Florida woke up. They had an opportunity to do that in the Pacific Northwest. Didn't fully take advantage of that, but they got to play Washington again next year. You have some of those marquee wins while other programs are not playing those national games early in the season. And you go ahead, you continue recruiting nationally, you keep your name out there, you keep talking to these coaches and these trainers. It's substance more than the flash. And I think that's really still resonating with people at this point in time.
As much as I love your work, I did recently cheat on you and read one of your colleagues' coverage of Michigan State, but I know you appreciated the piece because you shared it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ari Wasserman at The Athletic had a very interesting take on the Mel Tucker blip, catastrophe, whatever you want to call it, this 5-7 season. I thought it was a good way to look at this. So we grabbed this. He argued that his contract, for all the heat it gets, was a sense of forced patience. This was an excerpt from Ari Wasserman's article. Quote, "Anyone who has lost track of what Michigan State is trying to do has either taken their eyes off the ball or never understood the build to begin with. What Tucker is doing, trying to elevate Michigan State's stature in the recruiting realm, isn't an overnight process. This is a 5-year plan if it works at all. Tucker's long-term vision has been paying dividends. The Spartans haven't arrived, but 4-star prospects are committing to the program in greater numbers. What could this look like in 5 years? Keep your eyes on the prize and never lose sight of the long-term vision." So Ari's take seems to be in line with yours. It's effectively 4 stars are still coming. Don't lose sight of what the big long-term goal was here. Tucker is still building towards a national brand, a national competition level. That's what he talked about. When he got hired, it was so different. And I've talked about it with you. D'Antonio's hired. We want to go win the Big Ten. We want to go to the Rose Bowl. He didn't even talk about national championships. I mean, we probably would have laughed at him. People were laughing about him talking about the Rose Bowl. Mel Tucker has never talked about that, really. It's been more of a national focus. Do you think Ari's take seems to be on point where we have kind of what you said earlier, lost the vision here, and people need to relax? And this is not only not a huge deal, it's really no big deal at all. This was always going to be looked at in year 5 and 6 more than year 2.5, 3.
Right. I think that's spot on by Ari. And talking about D'Antonio, I think it was 6 years before he had an 11-win season in his football career. And it kind of shows that that's kind of where football used to be a few years ago, before all these quick firings and quick hirings and trying to get the flash in the pan and moving on when the coach has a dip in performance. And I think, just like Ari said, the term forced patience, I think I'm going to use that a lot going forward now. So shout out to Ari, but that's a great way of looking at it. And I was talking to the parent of a current freshman here right now. We were talking about the playing time that true freshmen were getting on defense this year. And part of what I kind of understood from the way that they were just putting guys out there, and if they were struggling, it didn't matter, was because they don't really have to worry about, if we are struggling because we have young guys out there, we might get fired. No, they're able to develop guys on their own timeline. They're able to take risks. They're able to play these guys. And as a result of that, you're seeing young guys flourish early, and you're going to see those guys pay dividends as they get to the senior year. If you're someone like Jimbo Fisher, well, he has a similar contract. He's probably not a good example, but they're probably going to find a way to fire him. But if you're a coach where you're kind of in win now mode, you might not be able to go ahead and put Zion Young out there earlier than you need to before injury concerns. You might not be able to go ahead and put Malik Spencer in there when Kendall Brooks gets hurt. So you see these signs of what forced patience and sort of some job security can do on the field. And I think what you're going to see is a lot of development through the ranks. I know people talk about the portal, and some people that are sort of anti-portal worry about developing the young guys. I think the patience that Mel Tucker's been afforded with this deal is going to allow them to build this the right way without feeling the pressure of overnight trying to milk every possible win out of it, which they're still going to try to do, as you see with the portal. But it's going to be a good blend, and I think forced patience is what allows them to derive that sort of patience.
I agree. And I'm curious for your take on this, because here's my read on how I see Michigan State as unique. Typically, when you're looking at these national stories, calling out coaches, saying things are off the rails, it's every USC coach between Pete Carroll and Lincoln Riley. It's every University of Miami coach the last 20 years. You're seeing it with Jimbo Fisher now. You get these articles that are everyone saying what a mess things are, and they better get it right. Typically, if you go to the source and go to well-sourced people, they say that's in line with what the boosters are saying, the administration.
Right.
The administration's usually pissed off. The boosters are usually pissed off, and it's reflected in the media. This seems unique. Everyone I've talked to, you're more plugged in on the recruiting side. I'll punch with you on the donor, on the MSU admin side. I think we're right there. We're tied. Okay? Everyone I've talked to is not even in the least bit affected by any of this.
They laugh. They laugh at these articles.
They laugh. It's like, because I've asked and I will talk off the air, but I guarantee there's a lot of overlap on the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
People are laughing because I said, this is crazy. Like, no one's really like, oh my God, put up our setup next year. They laugh.
Right.
There is and that's unique to Michigan State, because I can't think of another example where everyone on the outside is, oh my God. And on the inside, it's like, whatever. Even Jim Harbaugh, they wanted him to go. Michigan wanted him to go.
Yeah.
So I think Michigan State's unique. But so you seem to agree. Everyone you've talked to, this is all outside noise. Nobody worth the shit up there in the administration. No one feeding money into the program. No one with any modicum of influence is even 2% upset with their head coach and their direction. Is that reflective of your experience too?
Absolutely. I've been in a room with some of the people that sort of have a lot of juice in these decisions, and honestly, they're much less affected than the actual average fan. And they have invested millions in the current regime, and I think that's a great way of kind of putting into perspective the vision that people are making these decisions have with the process and the patience and the timeline required. It greatly varies from the people on the outside. And obviously, they call them fanatics for a reason. People are not going to all have measured composure when it comes to the way that seasons go. But I totally vouch for what you're saying there about the people that are in these positions of power. They could not even be remotely bothered at this point in time.
And that is unique because, again, when you hear about these, the USC boosters are pissed off at Lane Kiffin and you know,
Right.
Clay Helton, and you've heard every Miami coach. It's always chaos administratively. The boosters are all pissed off, calling up making demands. That's not Michigan State right now. It's just not. And you could say everyone's naive. I mean, you can make of that whatever you want.
Right.
It's a free country. But I do think Michigan State is operating from a uniquely strong standpoint as opposed to other universities that have been in similar situations where Dan Wetzels of the world are trying to light the thing on fire.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. This year in general, though, as much as it sucked, I do think we can move past it. Don't they have to have kind of a pretty good year next year? Because if you go 5-7 again, then maybe do some of our same mutual friends up there start asking questions. I mean, how long is the runway? I've always been a 5-year runway guy. To me, I need 2 more years of flailing and drowning before I even ask questions.
Right.
Maybe I'm dumb. What's your kind of timeline?
I'm at the same thing of 2 years, but I guess it depends what you consider flailing. I think they have to make a bowl game next year. I mean, not have to, like no one's going to come over there, knock down the door and ship Mel away if he doesn't. But I think a reasonable expectation is they make a bowl game next year. What you kind of look at is who's coming back. And it's pretty much a lot of the core guys except Jaden Reed and Jacob Slade for the most part. Henderson, very key. We saw what the defense was without him. But a lot of these spots, you have guys that are able to rise and then a lot of surrounding pieces that are there that are good. The issue is they don't have a lot of NFL guys on this team right now. Keon Coleman, I think, is one of them. There's probably a few other guys there too. But that's not going to happen until a few years pass. They just don't have those guys that come in with that NFL pedigree, develop for 2, 3, 4 years and hit the NFL. Like they'll have guys that'll play in the 4th round, that'll be picked in the 4th round. Like I think Jacoby Windman, when he goes either this year or next year, I'd say 70% chance it's next year, not this year, but probably a 4th round pick, I think. You're looking at a few guys maybe on defense in the trenches, like a Simeon Barrow type. I think Zion Young, when his time comes, I remain high on him. But this guy's sprinkled in here and there that could play at the next level. They need the 2023 class to become upperclassmen before you start to see actual NFL talent at a large scale in this program. So that's really the timeline for me, is when can you have NFL players at more than a little sprinkle or a nitpicking level? And until then, I think it's going to be a process, but I do think that they should be able to make a bowl game in the ensuing years before that time comes.
Let's talk about expediting that process. You had a funny tweet. We pulled the picture. Ben, throw that up there. I got a kick out of this. I think it was yesterday, right? Transfer portal season in full swing, and you got the sandwich and the coffee and the multi-screens ready to rock. So, look, what's going on with MSU right now in the portal? Every time I see anything, it's a guy going out. I haven't seen anything about a guy coming in. Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe they're not at that point yet. I have no idea. What's going on? Like, how are they looking? Is it a net positive, neutral, negative? Where are we at right now as we stand?
So you say that you've seen a lot of guys depart. I say that we haven't seen enough guys depart. If you break down the numbers right now,
okay,
as of a few hours ago, Michigan State has room for 8 more additions. When I say additions, I mean not guys that are already publicly committed in the high school ranks. It's new high school commits and any portal addition. That's not enough.
You want to throw guys out.
I'm not throwing anybody out. Everyone that wants to stay at Michigan State, I'm sure Spartan Nation welcomes them with open arms. And I think what it really comes down to is there's a few guys where it's mutually beneficial for them to go ahead and get some playing time and get some starts at levels where they can maximize their final year or two of college football by seeing more playing time than they will here. I think it's Michigan State doesn't do it where they're like, oh, you're going to have to leave because we're not going to play you. That's not how it's done here. I think it's just sort of them mutually kind of understanding like, hey, you'll probably play more if you go elsewhere. And here you probably won't ever be at the top line of the depth chart. And it's done probably respectfully and cordially in that way. But my point is if you can get down to maybe 70 scholarships that are currently being occupied by the guys that are committed in the high school ranks and the guys on the roster, you've given yourself 15 spots to add portal guys and additional high school commits before signing day. That I think is the sweet spot. That's what I think it would be ideal for them to somehow get down to. I don't know if that'll happen. I can't speculate on guys that are thinking about departing or not. I haven't even asked about who might be departing. But if you can get down to that number, and I think some of the needs that stick out to me is maybe going ahead and getting one offensive tackle, getting a safety to pair next to Jaden Mangum next year on the other side. Ideally a corner, just because the talent level in that room isn't high enough there. A defensive tackle to just slide in and replace Slade. Whereas Tunmi's Adelaide, I reported today, is going to be visiting Michigan State this weekend, one of the elite players from the 2021 class. If you can spot fill a few positions like that, I think if you asked me the team needs, I think there would be like 6 spots like that. If you can get guys spot filled like that, I think you can have a season next year where you definitely make a bowl game, maybe push 8-9 wins as well. It'll depend on who they land, but I think they have set themselves up here pretty well to go ahead and pick out a few spots in the portal. I've seen some of the guys they're evaluating. I don't know where the interest is going to go with some of them, but I kind of like the mold that they're looking at right now. It's some of those highly productive group of 5 kids or those very talented, very young kids that went to blue chip schools. Not as many types that are resembling maybe somebody that didn't play at Alabama for 4 years, came here and didn't excel that well either. So really liking the mold that they're looking at, really liking the kind of the spots they're targeting, and we'll see who they can close in on.
So let me ask you this. You seem to be calming everyone down because people were asking you for a hug via my DMs earlier today saying, please ask them if we're going to be okay. You're saying we're okay. Is there any surprise outgoing transfer that you see coming? And I mean, not mildly surprised, and I mean Peyton Thorne, Keon Coleman. Do you think there's a bombshell exit that no one is talking about right now?
So I couldn't name one person, surprise or not, that I know is transferring.
I'm not saying no. Do you get is there a chance? Have you heard anything? Because people are saying, oh, Peyton Thorne's going to go to Western. Like, people are saying this like it's a matter of fact. They're like, where did that come from? It's not sourced.
To what head coach?
Well, that's TBD. They're working on it. Maybe they'll elevate his dad. I don't know. But look, it's just anything like that. Do you think there's a chance that we see something that we're like, holy shit, Keon Coleman's in the portal?
If that would have happened, if there was something like that, I feel like it would have already happened.
Okay.
You can't really predict the future, but a lot of the times when you see the bombshell guys leave, it's because guys have been tampered with in that window before the window opens. So the past 3 or 4 weeks. So in order for that to kind of happen, these guys would have been talking to some of the best players on Michigan State's team and saying, hey, enter the portal. We're going to give you this amount of money. I suppose that somebody could still transfer, but typically when that sort of a situation happens, it happens immediately. So December 5th, yesterday. So, I mean, I've been
never
surprised before,
but
I don't see it happening now that it didn't happen on the first day. But plus, I got to say, other schools, even really good ones, I'm talking about AP top 10 schools, they lose starters to the portal 2 to 3 times a year. Michigan State to this day has not lost a starter, and this is the 3rd portal season. Jack Stone, I guess he started a few games. He was kickoff specialist, but I don't know if he's going to be continuing football unless he gets a scholarship in the state of Texas. That's my understanding. So not really a departure if he is departing football per se, most likely. I think Deshaun Mallory started a few games because of massive injury bugs. Davion Williams a few years ago started, I think, a couple games, but
no bona fide.
Yeah, Michigan State's not losing guys that are starters on the depth chart on day 1 of September, and there are not many programs that can say that. So I don't know of anyone of leaving. I think they should be able to get through another year of that streak continuing, but if they lost 2 or 3 guys, I don't know how this fan base would handle it, because I've seen people being nervous and faltering over the guys that have left this season. And other schools have dealt with way worse portal transfers and have kept their composure more than this. So hoping that streak continues so the message boards stay calm.
Oh, yeah, message board staying calm. Good luck with that, Justin. That's very ambitious. Look, my perspective is this is the season. This is the time of our lives, basically, that we're in. It's portal season, and it's portal era. The peanut gallery criticism of Mel Tucker, which really came heavy last year and was doubled down to some extent this year, is he's not building a program. He's doing a mercenary transfer portal thing. Does the peanut gallery have this one right? Because I don't buy it. Is it a fair criticism to say, oh, Michigan State's just on the hunt for a bunch of portal guys? They're not recruiting and developing guys at the high school level properly.
If Mel Tucker was going to be going the mercenary route to get portal guys, there would be 10 less guys on the roster right now. There is no shot that this is being handled in a mercenary way while I see the roster being handled the way it is. It's a situation where guys are not leaving unless they understand mutually, hey, if I go to Kent State, I might play more than I will at Michigan State. That benefits my experience as a student athlete, and I think I should leave. And at Michigan State, I'm sure they will tell them honestly, like, hey, you probably might not start here. That's how the departures happen at Michigan State in terms of my understanding. And if that wasn't what was happening, like I said, there would be more room right now. And as far as not prioritizing the high school talent, I think what Mel Tucker has done so far here last year and this year, mostly 2021, he couldn't really help it because he was really trying to get as many guys as possible. But this year and last year, what they're doing is they're not taking flyers on the fringe guys. They're still prioritizing their plan A's and plan B's. What they're not doing is taking the plan C in November because they missed out on the plan A and B. That's what gives them more spots in the portal, and that's why they have bigger portal classes than some other people. So right now they have 12 commits, I believe. By signing day, they'll be adding, I think, a handful more. I don't know how many, but they're probably going to end up, let's say, I don't know, anywhere between 15 to 17 guys. And other schools will probably add anywhere from 20 to 22 guys. So really the difference is the very, very bottom of their class is not going to have the guys they're taking flyers on. Instead, it'll be somebody in the portal that can contribute right away. Even if it's someone that's not just absolutely dominating out there, he'll probably make more of an impact than that flyer would have in his entire 4 years here at the end of the day. So it's really a difference of opinion of how to handle the flyers. It's not how is he prioritizing high school talent, because the top of the talent is still being prioritized.
Wasn't this year kind of an objective disappointment, though, in terms of the transfer portal? I mean, I know what I thought. I know what people were saying. Jarek Broussard, oh my God, he won Conference Player of the Year in, was it 20 or whatever it was. Right. Amir Speed was starting for the best defense in 10 years before he got hurt, in Georgia. Right. Like there wasn't really much production from these guys that we were excited about. I mean, just as a general matter, this was kind of the bizarro Kenneth Walker experience, right? Like we did not do well in the portal. On paper we did. It didn't really translate this year. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. My counterpoint to that is when you fail in the portal, it looks worse because the failures substantiate themselves or make themselves evident immediately. When you fail in the high school ranks, it takes 2 to 3 years before you figure out, oh, this guy's probably not going to play. And even if that guy doesn't play, that's still going to be much more of a failure than Amir Speed struggling. Because when a high school kid fails, not only do you not know that for several years, and that's eating up a scholarship that whole time, a high school kid failing could be a much lower floor of never playing a snap, never playing a game, never starting a game. Someone in the portal ranks failing, or not failing, but I guess underperforming, like Amir Speed, the hypothetical going with here, he started 8-9 games. Fact of the matter is, he started those games because people behind him weren't good enough to unseat him for a while. So when a portal guy fails, yes, I don't think that they should be above criticism. Yes, you're right in your assessment of how well they did. But a portal kid failing looks worse than a high school kid failing because it's evident right away. But I would still contend that their floors are significantly higher than a high school player failing. Yeah,
the basement is definitely higher on the width, the portal width, as a general matter. And even Speed, I don't think he was bad.
It was just expectations were a little higher.
Yeah, wasn't he like a 4-star kid coming out too? Yeah. And I mean, and obviously a starter at Georgia, it's expecting a little more. And we're spoiled from the year. This is the no-5 zone university for 10 years. Yeah. I mean, we expect a lot of our defensive backs. It seems like we've gotten away from that, for better or for worse, for my sanity, mostly worse. Look, I want to transition to this. You made an absolute shitstorm out of Twitter a few weeks back, and I thought you were unfairly maligned. And I had your back, Justin, on this. I had your back. You come out with this report that Michigan State is circling back on Dante Moore, superstar, stud, 5-star quarterback recruit, committed currently to the University of Oregon. Just for reporting the fact that Michigan State was going to circle back on him, people were acting like you were an absolute maniac, that you were making this up, you're full of shit, whatever. Ridiculous. It's noteworthy if Michigan State's interested. Whether or not they have a viable chance is another matter. I'm going to butcher the guy's name. Is it Andrew Ivins?
Yeah, that's correct.
Ivins. I got it.
That's correct, yeah.
Andrew Ivins weighed in on this a couple days ago. The possibility of Dante Moore coming to Michigan State, originally reported by you that they were going to re-engage him. We're going to roll that, and then I'm going to get into your thoughts on
it. Is it something that seems imminent? I don't know, but is it nothing? I don't think so either. What is your read on this one?
Yeah, I made some calls this morning, this afternoon, and I think the smoke when it comes to Michigan State and Dante Moore is real. And Cooper, we talked about this on a Twitter space last week when there was kind of the first reports came out from, Spartan tailgate that the Michigan State was going to pursue Dante Moore. I think you said something interesting. Michigan State normally has a good grasp of the kids in that Detroit metro. I think what's also playing into this a little bit is the fact that Dan Lanning, his name's getting linked to Auburn as a potential job for him. And, he's come out and since denied any interest, or you've seen a few reports about that. But I think that's one you got to monitor. So I think this is real.
He thinks it's real. Okay, Justin, is this a real possibility? I'm not saying you're predicting it. Is it 10% that this happens? Dante Moore to Michigan State?
I think 10% is about right.
10, so you're going 10.
Yeah, sure. I guess we'll say that.
It's a reticent 10. Okay.
Basically, what I have said since the day that I reported it, and I actually counted. I think I have 14 posts since that day on the Shaw Lane VIP board saying it's probably not going to happen. The day that Dante schedules a Michigan State visit is the day you can start to get your hopes up. Until then, there's no reason for optimism other than the fact that him and his circle haven't hung up the phone when MSU calls. And I also said the recruitment technically doesn't even start until he gets eliminated from the high school playoffs, which only happened, I think, a week or two ago. So everyone that was getting their hopes up prior to that elimination, I don't know why that was the case, because they basically weren't even recruiting him at that point. They were just calling his circle, saying, hey, when the season ends, let's lock in. And since then, I don't think that an on-campus visit has been scheduled. I think Coach Tucker's supposed to go see him at Detroit King this week. But really, until Dante schedules a visit, I have said not to get your hopes up. I said it's probably not going to happen. And if anyone is saying to the contrary, then I guess reading is not one of their fundamental skill sets.
If he ends up at Oregon, people are going to drag you for saying that you reported that he was coming to Michigan State. You know that's coming.
Right.
I mean, just so you know.
It was in the reply. The replies that were resembling that stance were to a tweet where I said, while this looks doubtful, or while this is doubtful, in there. But
Twitter, great at nuance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's real in that the interest is real. They think they have at least a shot that they're going after him.
Yeah, I think Kenny Dillingham going to Arizona State gave an opening to Michigan State, but we'll see what transpires with that opening.
Look, you are much more adept at recruiting, roster management, roster construction at the college level, all this stuff. So forgive the layman's question. If this were the pro ranks, I would say, oh my God, you're recruiting Dominic Hasek to come out of retirement. You must not want Chris Osgood here. You're going after Peyton Manning. You must not like Tim Tebow. Bad example. But in general, Katin Hauser. What does this say, if anything, about Katin Hauser? That Michigan State's got a huge flirtation going on, maybe, with Dante Moore. Is it just, hey, we're going to get as many talented guys as possible and fuck them? Because at quarterback, to me, is unique. Even going back to Lloyd Carr, he had the promise Drew Henson he wouldn't recruit anybody like the entire year after him even. That was a condition of him coming. I just feel like Katin Hauser, I believe the highest Michigan State quarterback commit ever. A guy that by all accounts seems really impressive, everyone I've talked to up there. Is it a little bit of a dig, even unintentional, at Katin Hauser to be all hands on deck for this other Cinderella?
Not at all. And I will point you to the very similar situation happening right now at Florida. They have given Jaden Rashada more than $7 million to come to the University of Florida, from what I have heard. Allegedly. Their collective has, not them, I should say. And right now, they're putting out a full court press for 2024 five-star quarterback DJ Lagway. Now, does that mean that they don't believe in Jaden Rashada, who they just got 2 weeks ago in the 2023 class, if they're going that all out in 2024 for another five-star? No, that is not the case. Ohio State, when they had CJ Stroud and they got Quinn Ewers, and then stockpiled it with Kyle McCord the year before, Devin Brown the year after. It's just, in college football, you have to out-recruit what you got in the previous year, or your program trajectory won't be pointing up. And ideally, what would happen is every time you get a new elite stud, and let's say they're not a bust, they would come in, wait for a year, then as a redshirt maybe, and then maybe sit as a backup. Then they'll get their opportunity, play 2 years, go to the NFL. So that's kind of the model that you've seen all over college football. You were about to see that with DJU at Clemson, but that didn't pan out with I guess him executing that. But that's kind of the model that people are trying to execute. It was that Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence to DJU. You can do that every single year, and every single one.
You skipped one though that left. You skipped.
Oh, this is true. This is true.
Which brings me to my point.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it from the Michigan State perspective, but what does Caden Hauser think? I mean, I'm sure you haven't asked him. Maybe I'll ask him if he comes on the show again.
I've asked people close to him.
Okay, what's the answer? What does he think about, oh my God, Dante Moore, come here. Is this just whatever?
They're not afraid. They're not afraid at all.
Oh no, Brenham's got the lubricant out. Oh my God. So he's saying, come on, Dante Moore.
They've thrown at the same setting before, and Caden Hauser has looked better in those settings. But
I'm a Hauser guy. I'm with Brett. Like I almost don't want them to go after anybody else.
Yeah.
But I love Hauser. Everybody up there loves Hauser.
Yeah.
So your take from talking to his circle is, no big deal. Like, come on in, Dante.
Yeah. People that are in the actual sphere of football, they don't judge it off of rankings. They judge it off of, hey, we've seen Caden Hauser stand 30 feet from Dante Moore and throw the ball better than him at that given day. That is how they form their opinions on competitions, on just the nature of competition. So first of all, like I was saying earlier, I think it's a moot point. It's never going to be something that they have to worry about, most likely, if things trend in the direction they're trending.
Interesting conversation.
Right. But if that were to ever happen, I don't think there's going to be any issue. I guess maybe if Dante would have came in and won the job as a true freshman, okay, maybe Caden's not going to sit around every single year. But first of all, I would have taken Caden against Dante Moore in that first freshman year anyway. And second of all, Caden's circle wouldn't have ran in that scenario either.
You have positioned us perfectly to do the Michigan fan thing. Anytime they're after some recruit and then he rejects them, they always say, we didn't really want him anyway. We like this guy that we already have.
I think it's very evident Michigan State wants Dante Moore. But yeah. I'm just saying that if there's an in-state quarterback playing against Michigan, two high-shell defenses, I'm going to need a few quarterbacks to come in and not play like Rob Bolden, Devin Gardner, and some of these guys before I'm ready to say, as a true freshman, this guy's coming in and winning this job. So that's just where I stand in general. I think Bryce Underwood is going to be the first guy to come in and defy that. But I don't even know if Dante Moore is going to get the opportunity to start at Oregon as a true freshman, because I believe Bo Nix is 50-50 and coming back. So we'll never know for sure if Bo Nix comes back, if Dante would have been the guy to reverse that trend. But I'm just not ready to say a Michigan in-state quarterback is going to be able to start as a true freshman in the Power 5 until I see them transition from playing against very basic defenses, not having year-round football like you see down in the South, to suddenly playing as a true freshman without redshirting. So that's just where my take is on a general sense, not with Dante Moore specifically. But that feeds into, I guess, the way I look at it.
I hear a lot of buzz about Caden Hauser up there. He's looking pretty good in practice all year. I don't know if you're hearing the same stuff, Justin, but I was hearing the same stuff. Colton Pouncey started it, your predecessor at The Athletic, in that role. But they like him up there a lot. Like, the players have told me off camera, like, he's good. So yeah. I think they're good hands either way. But I had to talk about Dante Moore when I have one of the top recruits in the country and the guy who broke the story that Michigan State is still jonesing for this guy. So I had to ask you.
Right.
All right, so we'll move on. This is where you and I might fight. Okay. I'm gonna try to be zen on this. the Michigan State basketball season as it relates specifically to the transfer portal. Tom Izzo, defiant to the end this offseason on this issue. Wanted nothing to do with the transfer portal. You're going to push back on that with the Bridges thing. I know. We'll get to that. Just calm down. But he went in front of the camera repeatedly and said, I'm rolling with my guys. We grabbed one of the clips. We had Tyson Walker and Jaden Akins respond to this. I want to get your take on it. But let's roll Tom Izzo defiantly shouting down the transfer portal.
Because we could be damn good, guys, and start out 1-7. So everybody get ready for it. We could be damn good and be 1-7. Okay, so not many teams can say that. And, what's the first thing everybody's going to say? Should have gone to the transfer. I don't give a damn. I did what I believe is right for my players, for my program, for my culture. Those three things are the most important to me. Will I adjust? I might. I'm not being stubborn on it. I'm really not. I believe what I believe.
Okay, and I believe what I believe. I disagree with everything he said except where he pointed out, if we get off to a shaky start, the first thing people are going to say is, should have gone to that transfer portal. That's the one thing I agree with. And he's right about that, because that's exactly what I'm saying. When I'm seeing, look, I'm sure Carson Cooper's a great kid. I'm sure everyone on this roster is a wonderful person and kind to their family and friends. This roster needed at least one or two pieces. And you are talking about Michigan State University, not DePaul, not Kent State, not Eastern. I mean, how am I supposed to sit here and watch a thin bench, Sissoko in foul trouble on the boat? The team's just dead. They have no one to put in that can guard anybody in the post. How can that happen? Why is that acceptable? If you swing and miss, I'll dance with you. I'll defend you. I got TM Izzo on my license plate. I love the man. Nobody loves Tom Izzo more than me. Maybe even his own family. This is indefensible, what they've done. Openly, defiantly saying F you to the portal. And they're in foul trouble. They're having their annual ankle injury, which always happens. I don't know why. What's going on there? That's an Ant Wright pet topic. They blew this portal cycle, right? They got nothing. They didn't want nothing after the Bridges whiff. How else am I supposed to interpret this thin bench, team losing close games because they don't have anybody to put in there worth a damn? I'm sorry. I'm being realistic. I know you disagree. Tell me why I'm wrong. How am I wrong here? They blew this.
When Izzo talks about everything he talked about there in the scope of last offseason, he's talking about center. He's only talking about center. They flew over to Jalen Bridges almost the day he entered the portal. Tried everything they could to get him. He went to Baylor. Then Izzo invited the entire extended family of Micah Parrish from Oakland, another small forward, power forward. He wanted 30 minutes per game, I heard. And he went ahead and went to the Mountain West, I believe. They really tried to get forwards. Center, they willingly chose not to get one. There's no way about kind of spinning that. But those are two very, very different approaches. Forward and center had very different approaches applied to them. One of them they did not want someone at. The other one they tried really hard, but kids just had unreal expectations for playing time. And when Malik Hall is coming back, Jaden Akins is better than Micah Parrish. They're not able to promise 30 minutes per game to this dude. So they tried at forward, couldn't get it. Center, they didn't want it. Now, talking about center, if I was Tom Izzo, I would have tried to have gotten Manny Bates, who ended up going to Butler. I've told you that I wanted a center this offseason. Now, here's the devil's advocate to what we both agree on with center. Let's say they get Manny Bates this season, right? They will have won several more games than when a true freshman Jackson Kohler has to play or a true freshman Carson Cooper has to play. They probably would have gone another round further in the NCAA tournament. They would not have won an NCAA title. Next year, however, when they add 4 really good recruits to a core that could all remain, they could win an NCAA title. But now, when you have Manny Bates coming this year and leaving, Jackson Kohler not playing many minutes at all, suddenly thrust into the primary backup center position, he's much worse next year than he is this year. Now, with that said, I still would have gotten Manny Bates. But it's not as cut and dry as we make it seem to be. Next year's team, if you believe is the title chance, would have been significantly worse if Jackson Kohler doesn't play this year.
Okay, so if you want to make the 2024 argument, fine. I mean, that's fine. I'm sorry. Even you said it. Go get a center. Like, I wanted to win that game on the boat.
Yes.
They would have won the game on the boat.
They would have won the game if they had Manny Bates behind Madi Suzuko on the boat.
They would have won the game on the boat. I want to win the game on the boat. How long are we every fucking year kicking it down? Oh, just wait till next year. It's like the Bad News Bears. Another thing, just wait till next year, and he chucks the beer at him. I don't want to wait till next year anymore. Do you realize? Wait till next year. This has been, by Michigan State standards, a bad program for the last couple of years. A bad team, not bad program. Bad team.
Yeah.
Right? The last couple of years?
Right. I think Izzo has said that several times as well.
Oh, good. Then what are we arguing about? It's the open defiance. If you're out there trying, you can talk about the forward thing. Fine. I'll give you on the Bridges thing. I'm sorry. I have a hard time believing. I watch every other program, big and small, including my other school, University of North Carolina, who is having their own problems. But they went out and got Nance. That team had way more coming back this year than Michigan State.
Nance didn't want 30 minutes. Nance wanted to win. Micah Parrish wanted 30 minutes.
Okay, so we can go through every example. So you're telling me Michigan State has this unique problem where it's the one good school that didn't have any minutes that they could promise. Every other school's getting somebody. What other school struck out like this? Did anybody? Baylor, UNC, they all added guys. Come on. Kansas added somebody. Who did they add? I'm bad with the outside of the Big Ten. Everybody added pieces this year, except Michigan State in that sort of top 15 to 20 traditional program. I'm not talking about AP ranking. I'm talking about just profile the last 20 years. This is the one exception. So to me, it sounds like, and you're not a homer. You're a straight shooter, but that sounds like the homer take. You're not a homer, but that sounds like the homer take. Yeah, the guys wanted 35 minutes and they wanted the Caleb Swanigan, rest in peace, private chef. That's bullshit. The coach said he didn't want anybody. I played the clip with Walker and Akins. I played 3 clips of him saying that. So is he lying? I'm sorry. He said he didn't want anybody after the Bridges thing. We all know he went after Bridges.
He's not lying. He's talking selectively about half of the 2 needs that he has.
He's wrong. He should have. And I love Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo forgot more about basketball today than I've ever known. I'm not an anti-Izzo guy. The biggest defender of the guy. Do the Twitter advanced search. Type in Izzo Darko State News. But he got this one wrong. And I'm sorry. I'm tired of. This is going to be a first weekend team again, right? They're not going to the Sweet 16 with this group unless anything can happen. The tournament's wonky, but you're not picking that confidently, right? So now we're 3 years not getting into the second weekend. Hopefully they make the tournament. That's not acceptable at Michigan State.
So, yeah, most likely. One thing there's one sign that I have seen a drastic change in while this has all been going on. Izzo has wanted to make sure that he will never end up in a position like this of needing portal guys by having the most active, energetic, and successful recruiting stretch I've seen him have in a long time. His 2023 recruiting class, getting 4 top 75 guys, 2 of which he landed within a week after offering them. One where he beat out Gonzaga and several blue chip programs. The other, the maestro of the class, the floor general, that he got way out in advance. His 2023 class is as good of a class as you can have. And he had increased energy and drive in order to assemble that class. I believe that comes out of a sense of not stubbornness, but a drive to prove people wrong that his way will work. So what he has done is not just outright defied, which he has channeled that into actual productivity, but just in the high school ranks instead of the portal. 2024, they're looking very good with another 5-star center, James Brown, out of Illinois. So in terms of high school recruiting, I think they're going to position themselves where you'll never see another roster that's depleted in need of the portal. So I think, yeah, this season's going to be disappointing, but I think it's probably going to be the last time where you're going to be like, they needed somebody from the portal badly.
But okay. this is a mutual exclusivity issue here. They can do all that bang up work in recruiting and have a center here. Manny Bates, who's only going to be here 1 year, isn't going to block.
I said they should have gotten Manny Bates.
Okay, this is
I'm
egregious.
saying what else? There's no ripple effects.
There's no excuse. It's saying, oh, he's gonna show us. He's gonna prove me wrong next year. I don't care. I do care about next year, but in the context of this argument, it's irrelevant. I'm talking about, in your example, Manny Bates, but there were other guys that are only going to be here 1 year anyway. This has nothing to do with next year. It has no effect on next year. I'm tired of losing in the first weekend. Is that too much? I mean, the Final Four is not on the schedule, la-di-da. It's not acceptable at a top, to me, this isn't even a top 10 program. This is like a top 6 program in the last 20 years. I think that's fair. You can get into it. It's way, way up there. 3 years of this shit. 2 of the years, we didn't even think we were going to make the tournament potentially a couple weeks before. You're playing in the first 4, which was a ratings play against UCLA, but that ain't Michigan State. I'll give you a blip. I'll even give you 2. You don't get 3. And the 2023 recruiting class, as erect as all of our penises are over it, and that's great, has nothing to do with getting Manny Bates here or getting somebody that was going to be here for 1 year. And you got to watch us lose on the boat because of the exact thing I said, idiot me, in my basement for 4 months. If they had just done what this moron here said, they would have beaten Gonzaga. To me, that's a fact. So I'm tired of, like, why consciously choose to lose that game? Because that, to me, they chose to lose that game. Not directly, but they chose consciously to do something or not do something that directly led to them losing that game. They chose to lose that game. I'm not impressed by the bravado, Tom. I'm not. I'm thrilled with the class next year. What the fuck is this Defiant Center thing? I can't believe what they did. I'm mad about it.
I will say just one final thing.
Okay, well, and then we'll move on.
If they would have gotten a portal center, I don't know if Mari Suzuka's still here.
Okay, see, that's, you know what? We can play that with every school. Like, this is the one school where everyone's going to leave, and if they're not guaranteed 38 minutes a night, they're not going to come in the first place. It's not, Michigan State's not special in that regard. We're special in many ways. We're not negatively special in that regard. I'm just saying I heard stuff.
I heard stuff in the summer where after I was complaining like you were complaining, that's what was passed along to me. You wouldn't have gotten both.
He's not playing 35 minutes a night anyway. You're telling me he can't feed everybody?
Only because of his own foul troubles.
Okay. All right. I disagree. I think we agree.
Well, we agree that this year they should have had Manny Bates.
Yeah, but you're a little bit more gentle in the delivery here. I think this is egregious.
I'm just saying that 2 things can be true. Yes, they should have gotten a portal center this year, but they're not sitting on their hands. They have changed the way they high school recruit as a result of the portal stubbornness. 2 things can be true.
As a result of the portal stubbornness?
As a result of portal stubbornness, they have changed the way they are recruiting now.
Okay. I mean,
they're offering kids all over the map at 15 to 20 offer ranges, when in previous years you'd see Midwest maybe 7 offers.
But that is
sign 2 guys.
That is a self-imposed mutual exclusivity. I mean, it is.
It is self-imposed. But I'm saying they're doing something.
Choose. It could have been both.
Yes.
Oh, Manny Bates.
Well, this year it could have been both. In the future, it can't be both.
I'm right. I'm talking about this year.
Yeah, I've conceded this year.
Okay.
I've always said this year they should have gotten Manny Bates. But I think that they have done something different with the way they're going to be building in the future, and they're not just sitting on their hands. That's all I'm saying.
I'm excited as hell for next year, though. We'll touch on it later at the end, but next year I am pumped for. I'm mad, though, because I'm tired of getting made fun of. I'm very sensitive. This football program's not doing me any favors. All right. I want to move on to your role, and sort of, it's an overused term. Draymond Green openly says the new media. You get hired at The Athletic, which I am taking, not even mostly credit, full credit for, actually. I'm taking full credit for it. I've started the movement. So we put out this graphic. Ben made it at my request. Thin to The Athletic, make it happen. The second Colton Pouncey left us high and dry for the Lions beat with no replacement. We were begging for this to happen. Fast forward, ta-da, all because of me, nothing to do with the fact that you're incredible at what you do and everybody loves you. It was all me. Here's the announcement. Career note from Justin. I'm thrilled to announce I'm going to be writing for The Athletic this season. Thanks to everyone that made this possible. My name inconspicuously absent from that.
It's in black font in the graphic.
Okay, so we got to switch to day mode to see it. Okay, fair enough. So, and then this is something I want to get out of the way. the response by the quote unquote old guard. Ben, put up Matt Charbonneau. This is like a minute after your post, I think. He does I assume this from The Office, Steve Carell laughing his ass off. Look, people really in the old guard, it's not just you, it's people like you, the quote unquote new media. They hate you, again, not personally, what you represent, the sort of new wave. Is that fair? They don't really like what you represent and what you do. Is that fair?
Well, I've never had those conversations with them, so I can't put words in their mouth.
What's your read on it? How do you feel welcomed into the press row? Do you feel welcomed into the brotherhood? That did not seem like a warm welcome from Charbonneau.
We don't know if that was about me first of all.
Okay,
but
all right.
but to answer your question,
like Wade Fink on here couching everything.
But to answer your question, so it's tricky because on one hand I know those guys have met their midnight deadlines covering minor league baseball, and they worked their way up and they've grinded for years, and this is their primary career. They majored in journalism and they came up sort of the right way, right? So because of that, I've made sure to never call myself a journalist in any capacity. I've never referred to myself as a journalist, just a recruiting reporter, and a contributor for The Athletic. So that is the way that I have felt that I have carried myself. Have I felt welcomed? I mean, it's not like I go out and reach out and network or anything like that, but it's just the styles don't seem to mesh. And when something like that happens, if we are going to assume that it's about me, just because that's what everyone in the replies all seem to unanimously think, I don't look at it as taking offense to it. I think it's a sign of almost like, okay, I'm on the radar. I'm kind of establishing myself here, almost sort of like a sense of validation, but not that I need that from external forces. But I think it's that's kind of the way I look at it is those comments wouldn't be made if I wasn't doing something that was notable. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. But no, I don't think that the two styles mesh, but also I would say that I haven't gone out and networked and kind of made any attempts to do so at the same time.
I mean, look, you can have the diplomatic response. I have my own frustrations with this in general. I have had it out with Tony Paul via text messages. Tony Paul is one of my best friends. It's not personal, but we have a strong disagreement on this. I can't stand that type of stuff. To me, that is Stone Age dinosaur stuff. Right. We have done interviews. I'm not going to get into all the examples on the air because some of it's a little tricky. But we have basically broken news on my show before. Even like one example I'll give is Keon Coleman confirming he'll play basketball. There have been more serious things regarding Tunnelgate, attorneys coming on my show. Like, news was broken. Something that was not reported. It was broken live on my show. And they don't touch it. And they don't want to touch it. Do you know why they don't want to touch it? Because I'm not in the club. I'm not in the brotherhood. Right. I'm new media too, just like you are. We're different, but we're in the same kind of new media. You feel that little alienation, whether you admit it or not. You got a wry smile. I've broken news. Shit that's more newsworthy than what they're writing in the Detroit News and Free Press. They don't touch it. They don't want to touch it. As a general matter, there's a couple exceptions where we've been cited, but very rarely. Yeah. I'm just curious, we can take Charbonneau out of it, take names out of it. Do you think that media is a little bit fuddy-duddy with this stuff? They're a little bit behind the times? Because, I mean, you not being embraced to me is insane. Like, you're a savant. You're a freak of nature. You're a student at Michigan, not anymore, but at the time, a student at Michigan State, and you're more plugged in than anybody. It's like ridiculous. Do you feel a little frustration there?
I think the part that's frustrating is when I look at how I would react if someone is coming up brand new. Well, I guess I'll give you real world examples. I have done Zoom calls with kids at multiple Big Ten universities asking me how they can get involved in the industry, and kids that I don't know at all, kids that weren't even following me when they had sent those DMs, just people wanting to get involved and them asking me kind of how we can go about doing it. I've spent 30, 40, 50 minutes kind of helping those kids get in the industry. So that's just how I would view it if someone's energetic and enthusiastic and trying to break in. I don't think that there's really any sort of competition that needs to exist. Even with other recruiting sites, which is all driven by competition and subscriptions, I have nothing but respect for the people that are working elsewhere. So for me, I just can't relate whatsoever to any sort of a guarded approach to who can be a part of media. So I think media, the more people that are involved, the more sources that everyone has overall, it breeds more motivation and competition for you to go ahead and get a scoop. I think it makes the beat better. The more people that are out there reporting stuff and more people that have the finger on the pulse, the more it motivates other people to go ahead and jump on stuff. I know if I ever get scooped from another recruiting site, I'm like, okay, cool. I need to go ahead and get some more scoops in return for this. So that's how I view it. I think it's healthy competition. It's good for the entire fan base. And I don't think there should be any safeguarding of who gets to have a role in it.
I opined on this the first time you were here. I was in awe of you, and this was before your profile has grown exponentially since. You're a delightful weirdo, and in the best possible way. I mean this as a compliment. I don't know anybody else, at least in the state of Michigan, that was in college breaking shit like you were. I mean, getting these sort of tips or whatever. I'm curious, you have DMs, people are hitting you up, you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Someone hits you up, they say, I'm a 19-year-old sophomore at Michigan State, I'm an undergrad, and I'm in awe of your path, and I want to do what you do. You know, what did you do when you were a student that you're breaking these stories? It's bizarre. I've never seen anything like it. Like, what do you tell that kid if they message you?
Well, the first thing is like, it's always surreal because I just never like kind of saw myself as having that kind of impact. Even still, like part of me is like, well, I don't know why you want to interview me. Interview someone that's been doing this 20 years. They have way more wisdom for you than I do. But I think part of it comes down to the fact that like, when I was there, it was kind of a way to balance out the mundane mechanical engineering curriculum that I was having to deal with instead. Coach Sucker had just gotten the job. Recruiting had way more life in it than I had experienced before. And it was just a good time to kind of be close to the recruiting scene. I got a message board subscription to Rivals right around that time. And I think right around then is when I kind of also figured out Corey Robinson, who's my colleague now at 24/7. He was doing this as a part-time employee because his day job was working at the hospital. That was kind of the first time I figured out, oh, you don't have to be a journalism major to be a recruiting reporter. And my interest was only in being a recruiting reporter. So that kind of worked out perfectly. And I was kind of just talking to some friends back then of like some possibilities of dabbling in it a little bit, but I was kind of unsure if I kind of had the time, if I had the interest long term to do it, or if it was just something I wanted to try out a little bit. But I guess I should shout him out too. I know my guy Nolan, who was my roommate at Michigan State, Abdul, who I've known since kindergarten. Those two guys were like, no, if you don't do it, we're going to be mad at you because you can go ahead and you can be on ESPN one day. I'm like, first of all, no one covers recruiting on ESPN, so you're wrong. But they were like, no, you have to go for it and do it. And then my roommate, Antonino, who's one of the smartest people I know, he helped kind of balance the school side of things with the workload. But because of those guys and kind of the conversations we had in University Village in East Lansing, that's kind of where that part of the career kind of unfolded. And I reached out to Jim Comparoni, the publisher of Spartan Mag, and I kind of pitched like, let me work for free, kind of just see what I got and we'll go from there. So I was kind of an unpaid intern for Rivals, or I shouldn't say intern. I was putting in more hours than for my schoolwork, but just like an unpaid contributor there for 8-9 months. And then Alan True Chains, as I call him, from 24/7, kind of said, come over to this side alongside Corey. So from then it's kind of grown, and you know the rest of the story. But that's basically the blueprint that I tell the people when they ask me, when they interview, like, how'd you get involved? It's, I didn't do it for the money, still don't do it for the money. People would be surprised and kind of bewildered why I do it if they heard about the money. And at the end of the day, I think that's where you have to be at if you want to kind of excel at this, especially early on, is you have to do it out of enthusiasm, out of energy, out of passion. Otherwise, you're going to be in it for 2-3 months, get frustrated if you're not getting responses back from recruits or your sources are drying up. That's not going to be sustainable unless you have just energy and enthusiasm for it. And that blueprint and those kind of messages are what I tell people when they ask kind of how to get involved in it.
So you gave a great answer for how to become a recruiting reporter and how you got there. And there's a lot of recruiting reporters. No offense, like they ain't at your level for the most part. Why were these insiders, players, coaches, players' families, whatever, no offense, but giving you the time of day when you were a student? Like now I get it, you got the athletic thing. They were giving you the time of day because you were getting the scoops. Like I get it. You're enthusiastic, willing to work for free.
Yeah.
Why were you better than most people in your space as a kid? I mean, what was the secret sauce there?
I think it's because I resonated with the kids that were student athletes and knew what they were kind of going through in their daily lives. Like when you go ahead and you spend a lot of days freshman year with Jaron and you see Jaron Jackson and you see what he's going through on social media when he's only scoring 14-7 that day when he's supposed to be a top 5 pick in the draft, and you see how it weighs in on him. You go about reporting and handling these things a certain way where you kind of put the kids first a little bit. So the kids and the coaches that represent the kids see that and they say, okay, this guy's not doing it for clout. This kid's not doing it to be first. This kid's doing it to tell the story of why my player or why I am committing to this school, or telling a story of why so-and-so is interested in the school. It's not for any sort of agenda or for career advancement. It's just another kid close to their age taking interest in them as student athletes. And I think that's kind of where I was able to turn that into whatever it has become so far.
So basically just come at it honestly and with enthusiasm.
Right.
I mean, in so many words, right?
Yeah. I think part of it is I never had any expectations of what it could become. I didn't think I would ever make any money out of it. And I didn't think I would ever have a huge platform. So I never angled it in a way where those things were the goal. Maybe I should have. Maybe I'd have more sort of a platform now. Who knows? We'll never know.
Yeah, you're splitting the atom in your day job. So,
but I think at the end of the day, it's I never had expectations of it being this big, and that just allowed me to kind of just do things in what I think is the right way. But who knows?
It's just more organic. I mean, the last thing I want to hit on that real quick, the concept of access journalism. Look, I have a journalism degree from the best place in the world to get one, Michigan State. So, but I'm not a professional journalist, I wouldn't say. I do wrestle sometimes, like even with what I just said about Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo is my number one dream guest ever. Like I have asked Tom Izzo to be on this show like 6,000 times. When I did what I did back there and said what I said, think, oh shit, did I just cost myself Tom Izzo? Because I do know there's people that watch the show that are on the team and in the program. Does that ever kind of weigh on you with something you write, even something you tweet of, am I going to lose access or damage a relationship? How much does the access journalism thing weigh on you, if at all, when you're proceeding forward with what to tweet, what not to tweet, report, not report?
Yeah, I think everything that I say that I believe. Everything I say I believe. Sometimes, I might not be able to have a 9 tweet series in the middle of a game bashing play calls when I need to know what's happening in the recruiting quarterback picture. So yes, in some cases I have to take emotion out of it, not live tweet what I'm thinking and just acting like a fan. But I don't ever say anything I don't believe. I don't go ahead and carry the water for anyone just because I'm like, oh, if I say something nice, it'll help me in this way. So yeah, sure. I don't think I have the leeway to go ahead and bash people the way that people that are not recruiting reporters do, because a lot of my access, being candid, is tied to the people that are on the staff. But there's a difference between kind of behaving in a way where you are more tempered versus just going ahead and being a poster boy or fanboy for the program. So I'm sure there are many people out there, especially Michigan fans, that would say, no, you are a fanboy. But I think I've never said anything that I didn't believe. Have I held stuff back that I've wanted to tweet? Yes. But I think there's a difference between that and being dishonest or just promoting things you don't believe in.
It's discretion versus dishonesty.
That's exactly right.
Discretion, not dishonest.
That's right.
That's what I think. I think you do land in that boat. I'm a big fan here, so I think you're doing an awesome job with what you do. I want to see you continue to blow up. I am taking full credit for the athletic thing. I got to see what next I can take credit for and blowing you up. I do want to finish with a quick speed round. Do you have a little more time?
Yes.
You got some speed round? Okay.
Yes.
Ben, let's roll the speed round. All right, we're keeping it to like 90 seconds or less. It's on you. We talked about it a little bit. Tom Izzo's 2023 class. I could not be more excited for this thing. I mean, Xavier Booker, Jeremy Fears, Cohen Carr, Garrick Norman. I am, for all my negativity earlier, I'm over the moon for this class. I think it has what they need, who they need, the attitude by all accounts. What do you make of this class in general? And is this going to be the class that delivers ultimately that second national title?
Yeah, I think this class, the most underrated component of it is not just how good they are, but how well they fit with each other. There's not a lot of overlapping skill sets. Everyone's complementary of the other player molds in the class. So when you are looking at someone like Garrick Norman, who's kind of that 3-4 kind of mix, you see Cohen Carr, who's another wing, but completely different skill set, jumps out of the gym, can guard, has a lot of switchability. Xavier Booker, we know kind of what he is. Jaren Jackson light with maybe more work necessary on defense. But Jeremy Fears, as you know, a ball distributor, just downhill guy, very intense, great defender, great leader. Everyone has their own sort of identity. And when you mesh them with guys already on the team, like Madi Sissoko, like Jackson Kohler at center, then you start moving down. You have Jaden Akins. You have maybe if Tyson Walker wants to come back with his COVID year, even Joey Hauser could come back on a COVID year. Point guard AJ Hogard, Trey Hallman, we know what they are. All those pieces fitting with this class, I don't think you could build a better roster with that. And really, the only position I worry about next year is backup center. But like we were saying earlier, Jackson Kohler is going to have trial by fire here, so he's going to be better off than. I guess he had all the opportunity in front of him to get better. So I think it's a great class. Is it going to be the class that gets Izzo the title? I think if Izzo wins the title in the next few years, a good chunk of that class will be here. I think what you're going to have to see is Xavier Booker might have one of those careers where he goes into the NBA and is something that Spartan fans really admire and appreciate. But while he's here, I think it's going to be more of some rust, some raw, undeveloped traits where he's going to show lots of flashes. Probably one and done going to the NBA, be taken high in the lottery off of potential more than production. And I think what you're going to see is a 2024 class that's coming in where nobody's committed yet, but the guys that I'm hearing from right now and the level they're recruiting at, the reach they have down in Texas, obviously close in Chicago, all the way on the West Coast, I think that class is going to be as good as this class. So if you stack two of those classes next to each other, I think that's when you can start to have a second shot at the title if the next class doesn't do it as freshmen. But I think there's going to be some sustainable success here from recruiting here. The
same people that told me Cassius Winston is a fake 4-star, he should be a 6-star because he's going to be a stud, are telling me the same thing about Jeremy Fears. I'm not a recruiting guy. The same handful of people that were like, Winston's going to be you'd rather have him than top 5 guys in this class, are telling me the same thing about Jeremy Fears for whatever it's worth.
Right.
We touched on this, I think your first appearance, at least over a year ago now. I'm rerunning the same exact graphic we used that night. This is a recycled graphic on purpose. We talked about it over a year ago. I'm curious what the handicap is on this for you right now. Who replaces Tom Izzo ultimately? Next year, 5 years, 10 years, whenever. Has your handicap changed at all? You were a Nate Oates guy, I believe, when we spoke a little over a year ago.
I'm not a Nate Oates guy anymore.
So you're off the Nate Oates train.
Yeah.
Who, if you had to pick, one or two favorites right now, who do you like? It may be nobody up there.
I don't think anybody up there, unless Izzo retires much sooner than we think. I think then maybe DJ could get it, but
Dwayne Stevens.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a few years, and I don't know if that any candidate that we can think of right now would be that guy, except maybe Drew Valentine.
That's my guy.
If you asked me who my choice would be, it would be Drew. But we need more of a sample size, but we're gonna get it.
We know it's not coming tomorrow. That's why it's a speculation.
Yeah. And if he proves to flame out, we can choose somebody else in the meantime. But my guy who I would choose is Drew Valentine. But we'll see. I think it's so many years away, probably at least 3+ years away, that We don't, maybe 5+ years away.
Really?
If Izzo recruits the way he's recruiting in 2023 and 2024, and with Jalen Harrelson in 2025, he's going to be a top 5 player in his class, and I think Michigan State leads. The recruiting classes they're about to start stacking up here is going to be unlike I've seen since I followed Michigan State. And if they transpire the way I think, who can retire when that's what you're looking at?
Did you hear what Mike Valenti said like in March of this year?
I did not.
You don't sound very enthused to hear about it, but Mike Valenti said back, it may be off by a month, but it was March of this year, I believe, and the clip's still out there on YouTube somewhere, that Tom Izzo's at the end.
No.
That it's a year, it's starting to feel exactly like Mark D'Antonio did at the end. Now, he didn't report that, to clarify. I'm not saying he reported that. That was his reading the tea leaves. That was his opinion with the pulse of the program, the people he talks to. He said he thinks Tom's at the end. He said he specifically, I'm pretty sure explicitly said in the clip that it won't be 5 more years. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure even put the 5-year timeline as like a no way. That's why my ears perked up when you said up to 5 more years.
Yeah.
You don't think he's like a year or two away from hitting the mark?
And I would be able to have a lengthy debate with anyone that said that Izzo is going out like D'Antonio. I think the only similarity you could have is what we were talking about earlier, stubbornness with the center kind of being kind of similar to D'Antonio, having hints of stubbornness with the coaching changes at the end. But other than that, I see no similarities. Izzo's recruiting with more energy now than I have seen. Obviously, people that have followed the program longer than me could talk about other eras where that may be possible. But here we have a coach that's recruiting better than he ever has, whereas D'Antonio was recruiting worse than he ever had towards the end, as we saw most of his guys ending up in lower competition levels under Tucker. But yeah, it's just completely nothing as the same as how D'Antonio was recruiting.
I agree. I don't agree with Flanny's take, but I was curious for your read on that. Okay, speaking of Tom Izzo national titles and the elusive number 2, gun to your head, Tom Izzo over under 1.5 national championships in his career. We already know he's halfway to the 2. Does he get it? If you had your life depended on getting it right, and that's tough because it's really hard to win one. Do you think he gets that second one before he retires?
If Cohen Carr is at Michigan State as a junior, and the 2025 class is what I expect, I think he will have 3 chances to have at least Final Four appearances.
Okay. 2013, I mean...
2023 class as a freshman is what everyone's talking about, right?
How many have we blown? Or not blown, that's a little hard.
That's why I'm trying to think of how many chances he might have. I mean,
2010, if Kalen Lucas doesn't get hurt, I think they win the whole thing. I believe that. They lost by 1 point to Butler without the Big Ten Player of the Year, their best player. I mean, that was a B plus Duke team. It wasn't a juggernaut Duke team. So that's one. 09, I'm not going to fault them. They were the best team in the field except for the Super North Carolina team. But, 12, they're a 1 seed. 14, I mean, 15, that was kind of a fraud. 18, I mean, to me, I could argue they've blown or missed out on at least 3 or 4. 16, they were the favorite in Vegas to win.
Yeah. So what? Yeah, exactly. So when you ask me a question of can he win one more, I try to think of how many shots does he have?
Okay.
And a lot of people think of is 2023, 2024 season is his one shot. If he doesn't win it, he doesn't win it. I disagree with that notion. Now, we need to see who he actually lands in 2024. But if it's the guys that it's looking like, then I believe that's definitely another window. Whereas I think everyone from the 2023 class will go and stay another year, maybe except Booker. So you've gotten 3 of those 4 guys moving on. You have a great 2024 class coming in. And that's kind of where I look at it as it's a window. It's not a year, it's a window. And if that is indeed what transpires on the recruiting trail, I would go over 1.5.
Okay. I mean, maybe
just because I think they'll get 2 or 3 shots.
What if he wins 2 more? He ends up at 3. He's been chasing 2. Well, why not add a 3rd? Fuck it. All right, we'll finish here. Totally unrelated to anything. Your Philadelphia 76ers suck. What is going on with that? We're ending here. This is going to be 30 seconds, but
can we talk about the Eagles?
You guys are 5. I don't want to talk about the Eagles after what they did to me in that ridiculous game against the Washington football team, the one Eagles game I bet all year. Your 76ers team sucks. James Harden is the Stephon Marbury, the better version of this era. A bunch of stats, a bunch of razzle-dazzle, and he never wins jack. And he's not as charitable with the cheap shoes overseas. what's going on in Philadelphia? Have you given up on the process of working? This thing's done, right?
No, I think
Oh.
I think right now what has happened the last 3 weeks is none of their guys have played, right? Tyrese Maxey's been out, James Harden's been out, Embiid I think just got back recently.
That's baked in. Embiid and Harden missing games was baked in at this point.
Right. So what I look at is Tyrese Maxey is one of the most exciting players in the NBA. The guy went from his rookie year shooting like 33% from three to last year being fifth in the NBA in 3-point percentage. I have never seen a transformation in year 1 to 2 like that. Harden, he's not as explosive in scoring anymore. Last year when he led the NBA in assists, that is why Tyrese flourished. I think they have an identity here that works really well. It's the injuries that I don't have any faith in. Last year when they went ahead and they played against Miami in the playoffs, Embiid had this thumb out and he had an eye socket destroyed. Something's going to happen in the playoffs again this year where he's not 100%. And then it's just going to be Harden passing the ball every single time, not shooting, and everything on Maxey. So I think if the injuries, you could guarantee me a healthy playoff run, I would take them against anyone up until the finals, but that's just not how it's going to happen.
Come on. Really?
Didn't they have the fourth best finals odds before the season started?
Yeah, people are fools.
Assume they're healthy.
But they're standing around. James Harden can't guard a chair. They just dump it down to Embiid, who just tries to draw a foul every time. It's the most unwatchable brand of basketball ever. Bring back that muddy New Jersey Nets 0-2 shit, Kenyon Martin and Jason Kidd over this nonsense. I hate the 76ers. I hate your basketball team. James Harden is the biggest fraud of his generation. You're saying they're the best team in the East.
No, not at all. I'm saying I will.
You said you would take them over anybody.
I said
until the finals.
I said if you could guarantee me in a perfect hypothetical world that they're fully healthy,
I'll give you that.
7-game series.
I'll give you that.
In a 7-game series, I'm not placing money on another team until the finals.
Okay, I disagree. I would take whatever's going on in Boston. No, I'm not going to get
I'm saying Boston could win, but I wouldn't be confident enough to put money on it.
I would.
Especially if Tyrese Maxey's playing the way he's been playing.
Juice-free bet with me against whoever they're playing. I'll bet against them in the first round, depending on the matchup. I'm not a fan. They're 500 nonsense. Anyway, you're the man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me.
Portal season for you. You're very busy. I appreciate you making time.
Can't wait to go watch tape when I get home.
Seriously, go watch tape. Go grind away. Ben Augusta, man, we love you. Great and powerful eyes on the other side of the curtain. Eric Williamson in his boxers on his couch watching live. This was fun, man. You're welcome back anytime. Maybe, I don't know, January, February?
Tomorrow?
Yeah. Izzo? Are you sometime in Izzo? I don't know. We'll talk soon. I'm looking forward to it. You are welcome back anytime. You're the man. Justin Thin. This was Spiro Avenue. Justin Spiro. We'll see you next time. Thanks.